Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Current Event Makers podcast. My name is Dave Swirsky. I'm a DJ and owner of Expressway Music. We are recording here in New York, and I'm very happy to introduce our guest for this episode, an old friend of mine and colleague, Ally Lipton McArthur with Herb-n-peach Catering. Hi, Ally.
Hello.
It's so nice to have you here. Oh, a pleasure. Before we begin, what is that a poster of behind you?
This is my 40th birthday celebration.
Nice.
And it was my almost like a bat mitzvah signing board that my very talented friend Barb made. And
nice.
Yeah, so it was,
Barb Salzman.
Chef Ally is what they call me when I teach kids cooking, which is the other thing I do when I'm not catering.
Cool. We're going to talk about that. That was Barb Salzman, right? Your friend Barb. Yeah, she's talented.
She's very talented.
Yeah. All right. So I want people to know about you because, I've always been a big fan of yours since we met like a long time ago. When did you start your business? Like 2003 or something?
Yeah. Gosh, I think so. Yeah. I was almost 2005 maybe.
2005, okay. Yeah. I know we did a gig together. It was a big bar mitzvah off Park Avenue, and I was really impressed with the way you kind of orchestrated things. There were so many people and so much on that menu, and you're just kind of like, okay, and everything fell into place. I said, how come I work with people who have been in the business 20 years and you were still relatively new to it?
I was really new then. I mean, I was working out of my house at that point. And that was...
You were like an orchestra leader, but it was so like chill. Everything was it ran so well. So I noticed that. So
I try to keep that in mind.
Yeah. So what made you start a catering business in New York City? Because that's ambitious and not easy to do. Can you give us the origin of did you always want to do this, or how did it come about?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to do something in events and catering. I started my career in hotels because I was advised that was like a well-rounded place to start. And then when I moved to New York, I started at this banquet facility downtown. Then I was the chief cook and bottle washer there. I was moving walls between the event spaces, and I was setting up everything. So through that, and then I worked for an off-premise caterer called Fisher & Levy that no longer exists. I kind of realized I can do that. The more things I did, the more I was like, I could do this myself.
Yeah. But I think what you did is so great because you apprenticed. You really got to know the business around, especially in New York City. There's just so many things going on at the same time.
Yeah, and I started and then I almost stopped. I was kind of on this, someone offered me a job that was really like, oh my God, I should take this money. But
in the business?
Things were starting to do well. So
was it in the business?
It was in the business, yeah. It was working for La Pan Quotidien, which has grown pretty big since then. Yeah. They had 2 shops at that point. But I was starting to really pick up on my own. So I was like, oh, take the risk or...
I had the exact same thing happen to me when, I don't know, I was in maybe my 5th year in the business, and a nightclub on the East Side asked me to DJ a couple of events, and I did, and they offered me a full-time slot, and that was a really coveted place, and that was like...
Still around?
Every DJ wanted that gig, and I said, I could do this, but all the private work that I've done is going to end there. And I'm going to be here. It was pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I mean, that must have been nerve-wracking for you.
Oh, yeah. When you know that you have a guaranteed gig and salary, it's like, take that or go on your own. And with the entrepreneurial spirit that we both have, you sometimes just take a risk. That's what it's all about.
Very smart or not.
Yeah. Here we are.
You got to believe. Like the Mets used to say, you got to believe.
Yeah.
So then you had a business. I think it went there was a different name of it back in the day, right?
It was called Avents because
Abbott, yeah.
I had a venue and it was like a New Yorkie thing, and yeah, it was like events, Ally events, whatever.
Right.
And
And you had that event space that was so cool.
right. So I started the event thing, and right after the whole thing happened with Le Pain Quotidien, I was looking at an event space because I said, there's so many people looking for spaces, and I felt like I was always looking for spaces for people. I want a space of my own that could be my office and then be an event space.
Now, was it worth it having the event space? And what was good about it and what wasn't good about having an event
At the
space?
time, it was worth it
Okay.
because I got I was fine. I was taking whatever I could, and I needed an office. And then I also incubated a few of my friend Barb Salzman, she had her office there, and Crystal Malukas, who now has her own event space and has a big event staffing and marketing business, she started there too. So I helped other people grow their businesses in my space, and it had an open kitchen, so I actually had a chef there at one point that did cooking events there. He's now got a big cooking facility that he does kind of, yeah. So at the time it was a good thing, and the reason that I changed and became Herb-n-peach is because I was offered a situation that was too good to pass up, a big kitchen and a partnership, which things happen.
The risk, right.
Yeah, so I got out of the space because I had this bigger kitchen and I couldn't really have both, and it didn't really work out with that situation. But
let me ask you this. Do you have to love food to be a caterer? Do you have to love eating?
You have to have a passion for it.
Okay.
I always say that like food makes people happy. When I worked for Fisher and Levy Catering, it was the time that you could drum up business by going and delivering cookies and kind of being like, hey. So I was known as like the cookie girl. So I would go and bring people cookies and say like, can I maybe do your lunch or cater your whatever, and get in with either the office manager or the head of whatever department. So that's sort of how it started with that. And that really, that was a great way when you could just walk into buildings before like September 11th, you could do that. And I got a lot of business.
So you actually, this is fascinating to me, especially in the times we're living in. You did sales.
Oh yeah.
So wait, so you did cold, right, exactly. I want to talk to you about that. So you were cold calling? Were you cold calling people?
Yeah.
So you would go into a building, let's say, would you go into a high-rise like office building and literally go door to door?
Yeah.
Awesome. That is fascinating. So you would go in with cookies. You had something to go in with.
Yeah, that was my in. If
and
you
you're
give
so
them
likable.
something good.
Who would not? I always said that about you. Who would not book with you? You know that. I always said that.
The feeling is mutual.
I know. You've been so good to me. But people could learn from that too, as far as like, we're only as good as people know we are. So people have to know we're here.
Absolutely.
So when you were doing these calls, were you hired to do those calls, or you were like from them?
Yeah. I was hired as a sales person, and that was sort of the way it was. I just was like, people, you make phone calls and people would hang up on you, and you have to like get in front of them really and give them something to put behind yourself a little bit.
Are you doing that now?
Delivering cookies, no, but perhaps I should think about that.
Yeah,
now that we're having this conversation.
I may buy some cookies because I am making calls now.
Yeah.
I'm stopping in, listen, I know it's a strange time with COVID,
right?
But you do have a captive audience in a way.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling some people, don't see a lot of people right now.
And to have you show up with some cookies,
I might place an order with you.
My cookies are good.
I know. So you did Herb-n-peach, you did the thing, and I know you were by the hotel downtown. I'm not going to mention the hotel because,
Yeah.
yeah.
No longer has that name. I don't
No, yeah,
I
it
don't
doesn't.
think.
No, it doesn't have that name.
Yeah, I actually had two cafes that were, so my kitchen was in one space that had a storefront cafe. That was the Sweetery. And then we had the Eatery, which was downtown on Dominic Street. And Sandy happened, and that sort of
Wow.
put us out for a while. And then ultimately it came back to catering. And that was where
Yeah.
my passion was, and that was what I was good at. So I kind of decided that, the cafe thing, really between cafe and catering, I had no life. And
Being a business owner, you don't have a life. It's
no,
yeah.
no.
But what makes, what, in your words, what makes a good caterer?
Service, you really, I mean, obviously good food. You have to have good food, but sometimes I think simple is better when it comes to food. Sometimes people overdo it and put too many flavors and things. If you have good food that makes people feel good and they love, and then you give them good service and you follow up and you show that you care and you make them feel like they're your only client, which I think goes for everything in business and sales. But with catering, it's like, I might have 50 events going on, but when your event's happening, you are my only event and you're my only client. And I develop really personal relationships with my clients. And I think that's very important because there are a lot of options out there, and it's all about that personality and personal touch.
Sure. And, I remember, because my company and me, we get hired by different planners and sometimes caterers.
Yeah.
And for weddings, I know with some of the caterers, tastings, would get very expensive. And I remember one caterer said the only way they figured that they could do it was actually do a tasting at a wedding that they were doing.
Yeah, I've done that. I have done with a mitzvah or bar and bat mitzvah. If you have someone come into the kitchen, kind of sneak them into the kitchen, or because at least that you have a reason to be cooking other food. So why not invite them?
And they actually see you were employed.
Right.
It's kind of a good thing. So, I mean, I guess, is it the cost of doing business, a tasting? Because if they don't go with you, that's a cost, right?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. And that happens a lot. I mean, I know some caterers, and I've struggled with charging, or at least telling people that there was a price for it and that you would take it off the final bill if they went with you. I have been very fortunate that a lot of people don't insist on it, or I know that by the time it gets to the tasting, they're hiring me.
Right.
It's very few and far between that I've had a person go to 3 other caterers and me at the same time that I've been like, okay, I'm doing this tasting and I really have no idea if I'm going to get it. And it's happened. It's definitely happened.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
And after all these years in the business, where would you say you get most of your clients from? Is it online? Is it referral?
Referral, word of mouth. Oh yeah.
Has that changed?
No, not really. Even, I'm catering Thanksgiving meals for people, and I have clients that are like, I'm not here, but my sister is going to be here. So yeah, the word of mouth is huge.
Fantastic. So you were in the city, and I know we had lunch a couple of weeks ago, so I know this, but I want to have more people know it. Where are you located now?
Norwalk, Connecticut.
Connecticut, which is a beautiful town. I was really impressed when I was up there.
Yeah, I grew up in Westport, Connecticut, so it's close by, and my family's here. My husband's from Norwalk, and it's close to Manhattan, so we know that we can still easily get there for events, and we're doing a lot in Westchester, which I always did, but I really didn't have too many clients in Connecticut, which is funny being from here, and I'd always say I'm happy to go there, but
right.
So,
it's similar with us because we do plenty in New York, but also in Westchester.
Right.
Um,
It's just as easy to get to Westchester as it is, sometimes you're driving around the city looking for parking for an hour and you could have
right,
driven to Westchester.
right. So I want to talk about where I feel it's every conversation, especially in the event industry, and even now because it's so crazy, is COVID. Can you tell me? I mean, other than the obvious things, is that we're in a pandemic. What what is the difference between doing business before a pandemic and during a pandemic? I mean, what is to you
Size. The size of the event. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we have to take a lot of precautions and we have to all wear masks and gloves and really keep our distance as much as possible. And the way that you're serving things and the way, everything needs to, if it's a past hors d'oeuvre, you want everything on its own little plate, or, you don't want someone to have to touch something that someone else may have touched. It's just, but the size of the event is, I mean, now they're saying that you can't have something inside with more than 10 people. So
people, right. Yeah, no, right. I know. Yeah.
so that's,
There's not that many 10
micro
people weddings.
events.
Yeah, your micro events. Do you feel that in any way you've learned something from this, or increased your skill in a certain way from COVID? I don't want to be a Pollyanna or anything.
Yeah,
Is there any of that?
I've always, like I said before, been very personal with my clients, but I feel like now more than ever, people are much more like everything is so fragile, so they're very conscious of how you are, and the relationship is much more close because
Yeah.
they have to trust you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's about
And
getting
you
that
do.
trust. And a lot of times that's not in person. You're not necessarily meeting with the people before the event. You're doing it all this way or on the phone or email. And
So
it's,
what do you do in these times when it's so much different and smaller? Do you reach out to old clients? How do you?
yeah. I definitely have been reaching out to old clients, which for me, a lot of what we did was corporate. So corporate events are not happening so much, but I have had people come to me for holiday things and say, what kind of different things can we do? And I'm like, well, we can send everybody a box and they can like make a cocktail via Zoom. You just get creative with how you can do an event, even if it's not in person.
It's really interesting to me because I get these emails from some companies who do virtual events.
Mm-hmm.
We do a virtual trivia, but that kind of makes sense to me. There's
Yeah.
um, virtual like food tastings online now. It's
Yeah.
kind of interesting to me.
Yeah. Wine tasting,
Wine-
wine pairing with cheese or,
I
yeah.
wonder if there'd be something like a scratch and sniff screen.
We should work on that.
Right? Should we do that?
Yeah. I like that idea.
Right. So for the upcoming season, is Thanksgiving a good season for you?
Typically, yes, but now we're doing deliveries of 4 or 8 people meals because people are home, and even people have been cooking a lot, so maybe they want a little
Right.
break from that.
Right.
And
Right.
where you may have gone to whoever's house, you can't do that now. So it's like, do you really want to make a whole turkey for your 4 people? Maybe you want to just have it delivered. So
Right.
that's
And
what we're doing.
what do you think when things become back to normal, whatever that means? Do you think the floodgates are going to open, or what's your forecast for that?
I think, well, this summer we all became it became a more comfortable thing to be outside. Even, I mean, I'm still, trying to, if I can, eat outside, if I want to try and see a couple of people go
Right.
outside. So I think the idea of doing things out as soon as kind of like the spring hits, being able to have events outside and having venues that are outdoor will be big.
Right.
I
Okay.
don't think it's going to be an immediate thing, but I think the immediate will be the outdoor because we became comfortable with that this summer.
And we touched on at the beginning of the podcast. You do camp. You do a lot of camp work. Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
I teach cooking at the summer camp that I attended as a child, Camp Scatico in Elizaville, New York. And I started the program 7 summers ago. And I am back and forth from there typically in the summertime with events in the city. And now that this summer didn't happen, I did some virtual things with the kids online, and I've picked up a few people who they have their kids at home and they need things to do. So I have a tripod and I teach cooking out of my kitchen, either one-on-one or I had a friend who had 6 kids had to be, the group of their grade had to be home because someone had been in contact with someone. So I did brownies with 7 families last week.
That's really cool. Can you tell people your contacts for any of these things?
Yeah.
And we'll have a screen up at the end of this.
Well, my email is Ally, ALLY, at Herb, HERB, the letter N, peach, like the fruit.com. And my website is Herb-n-peach.com. And those are my email is the best place to reach me for any of this. If you want Thanksgiving catered, we're doing that. We're taking orders until Sunday. And we're delivering in Connecticut, Westchester, New York City, Brooklyn, and Northern New Jersey.
What about for virtual lessons? They can contact you there as well?
Ally at Herb-n-peach.com is
great.
The place to find me.
Well, don't hang up yet, Ally, because we're going to sign off, but I want to talk to you for a second.
Okay.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's always great to see you and talk to you. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Current Event Makers.
Thanks for seeing me.